Good morning. Welcome to February, everybody. It's hard to believe it's already, but here we are. I would ask Mr. Tifo to take the roll call, please.
Good morning. Councillor Agar. Thank you. Councillor Atkinson. Thank you. Councillor Bushi. Thank you. Councillor Bradley. Councillor Bradley. Councillor Broad. Present. Thank you. Councillor Case.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Cook. Present. Thank you. Councillor Dennis. Present. Thank you. Councillor Ferguson. Present. Thank you. Councillor Hand. Present. Thank you. Councillor Field, alternate member to Mayor Loosley. Present. Thank you. Councillor McRoberts. Councillor McRoberts. Councillor Miller. Present. Thank you. Councillor Sageman. Present. Thank you. Councillor Veen. Yep. Thank you. Councillor White. Present. Or Deputy Warden White. And Warden Marriott. We have a quorum.
Thank you. We acknowledge that this land on which we are gathered today is part of the ancestral land of the Chippewa, Ottawa, and Potawatomi peoples, referred to collectively as the Anishinaabe. It is through the connection of the Anishinaabe with the spirit of the land, water, and air that we recognize their unique cultures, traditions, and values. Today, as treaty people, we have a shared responsibility to act with respect for the environment that sustains all life, protecting the future for those generations to come. I would ask any member of council to declare pecuniary interest now or where it may arise during the agenda. Seeing none, before I take a motion to go in camera, I just wanted to announce that this will be the last time that we do in camera here. We're going to start next meeting entering committee room 3 so that we don't, a little bit extra layer of protection, as well as we don't have to make our guests leave. Instead, council will leave. So I would ask for a motion to go in camera, please. Councillor Broad and Councillor Bushi, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody, and I'd like to welcome members of public in person and joining us by YouTube this morning. I would ask for a moment of silent reflection to remember those who we've lost the last few weeks. Thank you. I'd ask Mr. Tifo to rise and report from in camera, please.
Thank you, Warden Marriott. I can report that County Council met in camera this morning for a couple minutes to approve its minutes, in-camera minutes of its Committee A.M. and P.M. dated January 18th, 2023, which addressed three matters, namely one, labor relations matters pertaining to the student nutrition program at Lambton Public Health. Secondly, contractual negotiations with its integrity commissioner. And thirdly, a matter addressing potential acquisition of lands in the city of Sarnia.
Thank you. Item number 8, delegations. I'd ask for a motion to allow presenters to approach the rail. Councillor Dennis and Councillor Bucci, all in favor? That's carried. First delegation is Laurie Zimmer, Vice President of Clinical Services, Bluewater Health, Kathy Alexander, Executive Director, Bluewater Health, and Jack Vanderveen, Director, Facilities and Support Services. Welcome. You have 10 minutes. Not till you get up here.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to share a good news story. There we go. All right, so in October of 2022, Bluewater Health had substantial completion of our helipad. We had a visit from Transport Canada, and in November, we received daytime certification for operations. Currently, we're waiting on nighttime operation certification for our helipad, waiting on Transport Canada, and we anticipate that they will be on site the end of February to do an audit of the site and do some flights in with either Orange or the Coast Guard.
So thank you very much again for having us. We're very excited to be able to provide everyone here an update around the helipad. It has been a journey. This is like a high-level overview of our journey to the operational helipad. It's been since 2017, and we've been able to fly, as Jack has described, during the day, and we'll give you some examples of some of the patients that we've been able to help support along the way. And we're very much looking forward to our nighttime certification, so hopefully in the near coming very soon, we will be able to fly 24/7, 7 days a week. So getting patients to the care they need faster is really supports improving health and outcomes for patients. Since the day certification has been granted, Bluewater Health has been able to utilize the helipad for 6 patient transfers, including 2 transfers to Toronto to the tertiary centers there. Hours are saved in keeping local health resources local. So a Toronto transfer by land is usually around 8 or more hours with a doctor or nurse and the paramedics taking a truck out of the county for that long. And again, London transfer is usually around 3 hours or more going there and then returning back. And again, keeping our resources here in Sarnia-Lambton is really the most important, especially as we have gone through the pandemic and supported not only healthcare needs around Lambton County, but also interfacility transfers in the province during the pandemic. So some of the patient examples that we'd like to share with you, very good outcomes as well. We had a 72-year-old fellow with a heart attack, and we sent him to London, and he's done very, very well. We've also sent a 6-year-old with interesting multi-system organ failure and complications to sick kids in Toronto, as well as a 62-year-old respiratory infectious patient as well. So very, very critical patients that needed those higher levels of care to those tertiary centers. And also multiple ICU transfers to and from Bluewater Health have occurred. So it's stories like Owen's, and I'm not sure, probably you've seen something about Owen on Facebook, that we're so thankful for a new helipad, which helped make fast connections to the top pediatric centers, like I described at Sick Kids in Toronto, within minutes, because minutes matter for patients. And so having the team come, getting that patient stabilized to fly, and off we go to where they need to go is really, really important for better outcomes. Owen's mother tagged us on social media, grateful her son had quick access to the top pediatric centers when he needed it the most. So you can see little Owen right there on the stretcher and being loaded onto the helicopter.
Good morning. I'm thrilled to be able to speak today. First, to say thank you again to the County of Lambton for your remarkable investment into the helipad project, which really was the catalyst for our fundraising campaign. And to be quite honest, we couldn't have been successful without your support. And today I get to share very thankfully that Bluewater Health Foundation has fulfilled its $912,000 fundraising campaign for the new helipad for Bluewater Health in all of Lambton County. So thank you for your remarkable support and investment. We're very grateful to all of our partners and our donors, CEH Foundation, as well as, and I would be remiss if I didn't put a plug in that tonight at midnight is the deadline to get your Bluewater Health Foundation Dream Home Lottery ticket, but we've been able to already allocate some of the revenue from the lottery to the completion of the helipad campaign. And I think it really speaks volumes that the community's support has been essential in making this happen for our community. And also wanted to recognize some of the significant gifts that we have received really were remarkable investments from some of our newer partners to the foundation, including agriculture, industry, and rural partners. We had a wonderful gift from the Lambton Federation of Agriculture, who really spoke to us about the impact and the demand that they wanted to see for our community hospital if and when there was a need for a agricultural injury. The need for quick and easy access, as Laurie has mentioned, to a helipad would be crucial to patient outcomes. So again, thank you so much for your generous investment. We could not have done it without you, and we are thrilled to share that the fundraising campaign for the helipad has been completed as of today. So thank you for your support.
So you might recognize a few folks on this photo. So we were able to have 2 flight demonstrations with the school and the school board, so they were able to experience what it was like to have a helicopter land next to their school, which was very unique actually in the whole feasibility study of having building the helicopter or building the pad. This demo aided us in developing our joint safety plan, which is very, very important. We had great partnership with the community, the school board, as well as, of course, Bluewater Health and Orange. And later, a planned flight demonstration was opened up to elected officials and in the interested community and local and regional media to participate in the landing demonstration, which was very successful as well. And then students were able to receive a one-on-one engagement with Orange and pilots and critical care flight attendants, including a successful and engaging school safety assembly led by Orange. And a local flight paramedic was able to fly in, which was really exciting for his parents to be able to participate as his son was able to land the first time here at Bluewater Health. So I can't tell you how grateful and appreciative that of the support of the County Council on our helipad project. We absolutely couldn't have done it without you, and we are very, very happy to answer any of your questions. But thank you again for all your support. It's been amazing, and we're very, very thankful that we're being able to help support our patients and our families as another extension of our services at Bluewater Health. So thank you so, so much.
Well, thank you, Laurie, Kathy, and Jack, and I'll open it up to any questions. Councillor Bradley, please.
Question at the other end of the flight path. If my understanding is correct, that University Hospital is no longer operating their helipad, and that they are now transporting people to London Airport and then getting them by ambulance to University. Is that going to be corrected, or is there another plan to deal with that issue?
That's been going on for some time. Transport Canada decommissioned that helipad, as I understand, at University Hospital. We have access, of course, to UH and the Children's Hospital and Victoria Hospital, so we fly to London to Victoria, and then if the patient is needed to be transferred, depending on the critical services like cardiac or neurology, they're taken by land over. And that was the example of the one gentleman who had the heart attack, who had ended up having emergency bypass surgery. So still, time is of essence, and those services are still being able to be provided in a timely manner. Orange and Transport Canada oversee the oversight of the commissioning of the UH helipad, so that's we have nothing to do with that, but we still have access, so that's the most important thing.
Any other questions? Councillor Dennis, please.
Thank you very much, and kudos to you folks for the great job you've done. I wasn't on the last council, so maybe you've already answered this question, but how quickly can the helicopter get to London? Wow, thank you.
Minutes, and other like flying or driving, of course, is a lot longer, 3 or more hours, as we have described. And I also want to put a lot of support and kudos to our local Lambton EMS partners, Andrew over there and his team, because keeping the trucks here in Sarnia is really, really important. So again, those resources are here.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you again, Laurie, Kathy, and Jack.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Our next presenter by Zoom is John Loerchner, CEO of Wildscape Cabinspace, will be presenting to County Council to provide an overview of sustainable building of affordable housing in small homes. Welcome, John.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time. I'm just going to share my screen here. So I've got quite a bit to go through. I'm going to try to, I'll be moving fairly quickly, but just a very quick background on myself. I run a company called Cabinscape. We spent the past 5 years building short-term rental accommodation. We put in cottage country type areas, but we've taken a lot of the learnings from that and started a new company called Wildscape, where we build these small homes. We run a CSA certified factory. And we've just recently partnered with Lanark County on a project that we've called Project Sink House. So we were recently afforded a grant through the GMF to create a pilot project where we're building 2 of these small homes for the affordable housing portfolio in Lanark County, putting them in place in Perth. And one of the real focuses on this is to create a sustainable build. So ultimately, we want to build a unit that is carbon negative over its lifetime. So the idea is that the unit itself becomes a carbon sink, hence the name Sink House. So there's a few different ways that a home produces carbon. What we're probably most familiar with and what's kind of embodied in the building code is operational carbon. So that's carbon that's emitted through heating or cooling or any of the sort of operating processes that the building goes through over the course of its life. So you'll see a lot of code around, insulation minimums and ventilation and all this kind of stuff in order to minimize your operational carbon. The thing that we're doing a little bit differently than that, or than the kind of code standards, is we're also focusing on embodied carbon. So embodied carbon is the idea of what carbon is produced in the actual manufacturing of something. So that's the materials that go into it. That's the amount of carbon that's produced in the manufacturing of the materials, as well as the transportation and the building of the unit itself. So that's not just our factory. That's what materials are we choosing, what's our building process, and what's all of the carbon throughout the whole supply chain that's being produced. So this is one thing that we're doing that's quite different in kind of measuring our carbon footprint and how we're producing this build. And this is something that's kind of bubbling up in the architectural and design community. It hasn't really made it to the general sort of populace or been embodied in code yet, but I think it's something that's going to be a very important part of our awareness through building in the coming years. So we just wanted to get out ahead of that. Another really important piece of these kind of three pillars of a sustainable building is the overall durability and quality of the unit. Something that needs to be replaced in 10 years obviously creates a huge amount of carbon load because you're just building another one. So even if you're able to operate fairly efficiently for 10 years, if you need to replace it, all that kind of goes out the window if you need to keep rebuilding and keep replacing units. So an example of that is something like a steel roof versus a shingle roof. So a steel does have a higher carbon load. It's not the best material as far as the amount of carbon that's produced in its production. But in the case of shingles, if you've got to replace them 3 or 4 times over the life of a steel roof, which might last for 50 plus years, your overall carbon production is much higher. So that's all the kind of like calculations and math that we're doing when we're figuring out what materials and what to do, what the best build is with this kind of build process. So ultimately, how do we use these units? So there's multiple applications for these. As part of our CSA manufacturing process, we're one of the only tiny home manufacturers that are CSA certified in Canada. CSA doesn't call them tiny homes, which is why I use air quotes, but we generally just call them small homes. We're also the only CSA certified off-grid manufacturer. So these can work in urban settings. So I'm sure we're all familiar with, the kind of rise of secondary dwelling units or granny suites or those backyard units. So anywhere that you have existing, affordable housing property that maybe has a backyard space or an extra additional space, it gives you the opportunity to really optimize and maximize that existing property and increase the amount of units on that existing property. Obviously, with Bill 23 coming in, a residential lot can now have up to 3 units on it. So these are great for a secondary or even tertiary unit on an existing lot. It's also, looking at affordability from the broadest perspective, I know a lot of requirements in a lot of areas for seasonal dwellings, for seasonal workers coming in. There's requirements for just basic affordability for young people coming out of school, new Canadians, young couples. These smaller homes really give people that opportunity for, accessible affordability. And we're also looking at designs for the aging population. So a very small unit that is still barrier-free, that allows, minimum amount of upkeep, minimum amount of cleaning, but still the autonomy to live in your own space. Another thing that we're seeing that's becoming fairly popular is the sort of transitional housing solution. I was actually just recently reading an article about a build in Fredericton where they have about 40 of these units that basically provides a bed and warmth and a personal space, and then you have the sort of shared cooking facilities or shared shower bathroom facilities, but it allows for that sort of transition for people to have something that they can kind of call their own, and they can focus on employment and taking care of themselves and moving on to they don't have to think about where they're going to sleep at night and keeping warm. So there's been success in just offering these very small spaces that allow for transitional housing. And then I mentioned there's also remote applications for these. So if you're looking at rural areas or places that are not serviced, I mean, that's better, more common solution in Northern Ontario, but it is an option as well. So the main project, I guess, that we're working on that we're looking for a partner for at this point is the CMHC is now offering, it's basically a grant for what they're calling the Housing Supply Challenge. So they're in stage 4 of this. And basically the way it works is if it moves very quickly, which is part of the requirement. So they're looking for scalable, affordable, and sustainable solutions to affordable housing. And again, the broadest definition of that. But basically, I'm looking for a partner, a land partner, where we would basically if we're accepted for the program, from July to December of 2023, there's a design process for the shortlisted applicants. And then March 2024 to March 2025, for those that are approved, there's a $37 million pool in order to build out the project. So they want to see sustainable and scalable, and they obviously they want to see it solutions that can be executed quickly in order to increase the housing supply and decrease the housing crisis. So how we see that looking as a basic design is taking these sort of existing prototype and pilot that we've done with Lanark County and creating a sort of like a Tetris type design. So we have multiple units that can then, the engineering and the architecture is already done. So you can very quickly start basically piecing them together in order to optimize your use of a specific lot or a specific location. So in particular, where you might have awkward little lots or like backyard spaces or anywhere that you want to make use of the maximum amount of space that you can. This allows you to very quickly and very affordably piece everything together. So if we were successful with the CMHC application with a property partner, the CMHC would pay in entirety for the build of these units. And we're thinking of something that looks kind of like 5 or 6 or 10 sort of row house units. And this really optimizes affordability because you're minimizing your building envelope cost. There's less siding, there's less material involved. And then your operational efficiency, so heating and cooling is minimized because you have less exterior walls. And another thing that we do, the way that we operate is we do local manufacturing. So instead of trying to build one giant mega plant somewhere, we have small operating plants that can either be pop-up or can be long-term, but we can manufacture in the local area. This really minimizes our delivery costs. This minimizes the transportation fuel emissions, and it obviously gives local employment. So I'll just quickly go through this. I mean, this is basically our kind of different footprint. So this is what we're doing for the Sink House project. It's a small, this is a 1-bedroom unit, so it would be good for basically a single person or a couple. We also have a studio style build, which is just an open living space. Again, probably good for a single or a couple. And then sort of this bunkie type unit that goes back to the transitional housing. You know, very small space. It can have a kitchenette in it, it can have a toilet room in it, or it can just be basically a bed and small living space. So that's my presentation. I mean, I'm just, again, bringing this as information for approaches to affordable housing. And again, looking at potential for if there's an appropriate property partner or somebody that would be willing to join us in applying to the CMHC application.
Thank you, John. Any questions? Deputy Warden White, please.
Thank you, Warden Marriott. Thank you, John, for your presentation today. So I wasn't necessarily prepared for your ask. So just so I can be very clear, your specific ask is for a municipality or a partner to contribute land for you to propose this build project?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily contribute. I mean, ultimately, whatever we would handle the development and the build, the final build would then become the property of whoever the partner is, the affordable housing division or So it wouldn't be contribute to me. It would just be we're the partner and we're building on that property. And again, the CMHC covers the funding.
Any other questions? Councillor Bushi.
I have a deep concern about the fact that you're tired of reading about it and about small affordable housing and moving it quickly and all this. And I have a concern, and when is this going to happen in our area? And I think this is for our people around here as well as the speaker. It's
not sure.
I mean,
let's go ahead, please, John.
Yeah, I mean, speaking to moving quickly with that's with regards to the CMHC application. Those are the parameters of the application, and that they look for the design process to happen between July and December of 2023, and then the build needs to be executed from 2024 to 2025. So that's, I think they've built that into the program because they're looking for applicants who can assist in increasing the housing supply as quickly as possible. So that's essentially part of the challenge that they're putting out as part of the program.
Okay, so Deputy Warden White and then Councillor Veen, please.
Excuse me. Thank you, Warden Marriott. If my colleague prefers to make a motion, that's fine. I don't know if it's appropriate now or to serve notice so we can have time to craft the motion, but at the very least, I would certainly like to see this council move forward and to provide staff some direction to identify some prospective land as well as to reach out to all of our member municipalities to engage in the same process so that we can perhaps identify some appropriate land to propose for this type of a project. So if it's more appropriate for me to make a notice of motion for that, then I would do so for the next regular meeting.
That would be good. Thank you. Councillor Veen, please.
Thank you, Warden, members of County Council, and thank you, John, for your presentation. I'm curious, 174 square foot home, what's the cost on that to build?
I mean, that ultimately depends on the finishes and the servicing. So this is a grid-tied unit. So basically everything's electric, heating is electric. We build them at starting around 160,000.
Councillor Bradley, please.
Yes, and maybe Ms. Colasanti can respond after I make my comments. In my view, if you're going to do this, you need to make it fair. You need to say, we're looking at this idea, and no disrespect to the speaker, I appreciate you bringing it forward, but we cannot just here arbitrarily select one group when there are a number of other groups, which I think many of us have had an interaction with, that are looking at these concepts. So all I would suggest to the councillor, Councillor White, Deputy Warden, if you're going to bring something forward, that it be open, that it would be, we want to move in this area, and I'm going to go to Mrs. Colasanti about where she's moving, in what direction she's going in, and then there's a fair process where others can bid for the opportunity if we wish to move forward.
Thank you for that. And I think that would come out once the notice of motion is brought forward. Any other questions for John? Seeing none, thank you, John, for your presentation.
Yes, thank you for your time.
Our next presenter is Denise Heckbert, Senior Advisor, Strategy and Market Policy, Power, Enbridge Inc., and Sumesh Guptar, Technical Manager, Self Power and Energy Storage. Enbridge will be presenting to County Council to seek a letter of support for the Enbridge Battery Energy Storage in St. Clair Township. Welcome. You have 10 minutes as well.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I'm Denise Heckbert, and this is Sumesh Guptar, and we're in Enbridge's Renewable Power Group. So we want to leave as much time for questions as possible, and I believe that these were sent in advance, so we're going to move through it quickly, but any questions you have, please feel free to, it's all on, we can scroll back to anything we need to later on. So just a quick word first. I think most people here are probably most familiar with our gas business at Enbridge, but we have been developing, operating, and even most recently decommissioning renewable energy projects in Canada, the US, and Europe over the last 20 years. I'll just skip ahead. That includes about, our net share of those is just over 2 gigawatts of power, which is enough to power about 1 million homes, just for scale. So why we're here today is to request a letter of municipal support in favor of some battery power projects that we're proposing in St. Clair Township. The reason for this is the IESO, which administers Ontario's electricity grid, has identified that there's going to be a significant deficit, a gap between peak demand and peak supply during that period of peak demand as early as 2025. And particularly in this area of southwestern Ontario, where energy demand is increasing dramatically due to just general population growth, electrification of vehicles, but also the increased agricultural activity, greenhouses, and things like that, which I'm sure everyone in this room is very familiar with. One of the reasons we're looking to build here in particular, and ISO has even prioritized Southwest Ontario as an area where it really wants this additional capacity, is here because of the reasons we just went through, but also because in a couple of years, Ontario is going to be moving away from a single electricity price for the province into regional pricing. So it will matter in a region what the supply-demand mix looks like, and where there is significant supply shortages, the electricity prices will be higher in that area. So that's why they've prioritized Southwestern Ontario. We chose St. Clair Township and Lambton County in general because we have other assets here. We have a long-term partnership with this county and community, and so that's why we focused here as opposed to some other areas where you've seen probably seen a lot of project bids down in Essex and Lakeshore and over near Windsor. Actually, I'm just going to skip through here. So. So ISO is specifically looking for capacity in this RFP. And what that means is there's the base load power that everyone's used to with the nuclear and hydro to meet ongoing energy demands. But in cases of peak demand, where hot summer days where everyone has their air conditioning on, or in the evenings where people are still out doing activities after school or out at restaurants, but they also got all their cooking and their TVs on at home. During those periods of peak demand, that's the capacity, the amount above baseload they need to cover. Ontario has typically covered that either by oversupply or by gas peakers, but for a couple of reasons, those will no longer be sufficient to meet the capacity, partly because some of the gas plants will be retiring, partly because of the increasing demands that I mentioned earlier. So they're looking for 4 gigawatts over the next year, but in this first one, the one we're talking about today, is 1.5 gigawatts they're looking for, and especially batteries. And why batteries? Because there's no ramp up time with batteries. You turn them on and they're on, and then you can turn them off and they're off. But also the great thing about batteries, it doesn't require new generation capacity be built. Ontario currently has, and this region has, excess electricity being generated at night that nobody needs and is just wasted. So you put these batteries in this region, they charge overnight with clean excess wind and nuclear power, and then they store that generation so that it can be discharged when ISO says it's needed back into the grid during peak demand to make sure that all the local demands are met. And now we're going to go through, Sumesh is going to go through and cover some of the key technology details. These are mock-ups to help everyone get a picture. We're still finalizing the site plans, but I'll talk more about that after. Go ahead.
Sure. So when we are looking at the site, we're making sure to use and select technology that minimizes the land use on our projects that we're proposing here. So as small of a footprint that we can, but still deliver the service and the requirement for the project and for the need of the IESO. We're, you know, as Enbridge, we've been in this operations game for a long time. We're focused on only proven technology. That's one thing that's important to us. Technology that's been deployed, that has operational experience, and that we can look at and see how that it's going to perform reliably and safely over the life of the asset. We're also very focused on how we lay out the plans. So the site plans that you see here, they're definitely not final. We're still proposing, we're still working through all the details on that and getting feedback from the community and so on in order to make kind of the best layout possible. But we're trying to minimize their impact, but also have space access for emergency response and services and so on, and also design the facility so that to minimize the sound impacts and as much as possible to keep it in a good location on the property so that we can still use most of the land for agricultural use. That's generally, and I'll happy to answer some more questions, but one of the items I mentioned, you know, we take safety very seriously here at Enbridge, our number one priority. So definitely we look at the safety features and the protection that the technology we're looking at has. And we only use the one that have kind of a proven track record from a reliability and safety perspective as well. So back to Denise here.
Great, so just quickly what's next. So what's next in the ISO process is their bids are due February 16th, and the projects would need to come online by May 1st, 2025, because they're expecting the capacity shortfalls in the summer of 2025. And what's next for us is we are planning to submit our preliminary site plans to the township, I think next week or the week after. We're also kicking off discussions with the fire department to talk about emergency response and fire suppression and community emergency management. We are also, so we're very much still in the development process and we're going to be working closely with the township to make sure, and the county to make sure that we're planning in a way that works for everyone. We're also continuing the public consultation process. We view it as very much just in the beginning stages. We've had a public meeting, but we've got another one tomorrow at 7:30 at the Moortown Sports Complex. We're already planning our next one because we're still tomorrow not going to be able to provide answers to all the kind of specific questions because we're still working on site plan and technology choices. So we're planning another one, as I'm hoping in March, but no later than April, where we'll be providing more detailed answers on some of the design features and site planning. And then we'll be having another one once we've got a little further along with the community, or with the township and the fire department to talk about emergency response planning. So lots of consultation work ahead and lots of planning and development, and we're looking forward to working with everyone. But as I said, what we're here for today is to request a municipal letter of support. And the reason for that is when you can submit those letters of support, it improves your chances of success in the RFP. We think there's a really good opportunity and the start of what we're hoping will be partnerships on lots of renewable energy and clean energy projects in the county and in the township. And we have a letter of support from St. Clair Township, which is in your packages, I believe, and we also have a letter of support from SLEP. So we're here to request a letter of support from Lambton County Council as well. And thank you very much.
Okay, thanks Denise and Sumesh. Councillor Dennis, you have a question.
First of all, thank you very much for choosing to invest in Lambton County, and particularly St. Clair Township. I would be happy to make that motion of support. My wife is actually president of the local electricity company, and she's a board director on the EDA. And I can just, from what I've learned from her, I can concur with a lot of what you've been saying. So I support you, and I wish you the very best. But I'd be more than happy to make a motion of support. Thank you.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Broad, discussion. Councillor Agar.
I just have a couple questions. Just to bring everything out here, You are committed to working with St. Clair Township with the site plan. You're committed to working with our emergency services personnel because this is all new. I've read a lot of different stuff too, quote, bomb within a bomb. You have no objective of building this on top of a Enbridge gas well. I'm just asking that question out there right now. No. Okay. I have one more. Is it safe? And that's my, sorry, it took 4 questions.
Yes, so the technology we're looking at we're looking at proven technology, which means that we're looking for technology that haven't had incidents with, like fires in the past. It's very important to us. Previous generation of some of the technologies you've seen in the market, in the open space, that there have been fires around, and that's a very important concern for us. You know, as we're going to be responding, we're going to send our folks to make safe before first responders get there, right? So we're actually going to be the first responders to make it safe so that the fire team can go in case there's an emergency. So definitely this is something we take very seriously, as what situation we're putting our folks in as well, right? So definitely it's something we're looking at. Now, on top of other gas wells, just for clarity, we are looking at these facilities where we already have infrastructure, right? We already have natural gas infrastructure, but anything that's underneath that location, any existing wells, any abandoned pipelines or anything like that, we're basically daylighting to make sure that we know where those things are and making sure that we're avoiding it and how deep we're going and so on.
Yeah, and to your first 2 questions, yes, we can confirm. I believe we are submitting our preliminary site plan drafts next week, and we will be following up to have whatever meetings and discussions are needed. And we're actually going to be meeting with the fire chief later today to kick off discussions about what equipment, what training, how they would like to go about even planning the emergency response plan.
Thank you.
Okay, first Councillor Hand and then Councillor Atkinson.
Thank you. A very interesting proposal. And again, it sounds like it might be a worthwhile development for this area. But my question is related to life expectancy of the batteries. And I've read about what happens at end of life, and are there disposal concerns with these batteries when they're no longer usable?
Yeah, great question. So at the end, as the battery generally degrades over time, right? So their efficiency degrades, like no different than your phone. So generally for these batteries, you know, there's about 60% of life left at them towards kind of the end of their life for this project, at the end of the term. So what happens afterwards, let's say we don't keep using them, then we would send them off to a recycling depot where 95% of the battery actually gets recycled, right, including the cathode, anode, everything inside the package itself. A lot of the materials inside the containers themselves all get reused and recycled. There's a lot of plastics and tubings and those kind of things, and a lot of HVAC system.
And I'd also just like to add, as I mentioned earlier, we decommissioned and reclaimed land from our first wind project earlier this year. That we were one of the first wind projects in Canada, and back in 2002. So we've got experience doing that, and any topsoil we remove for the concrete pads that these will go on, we're keeping on site to use as berms and other things, so that, you know, if at the end of the project life the decision is that we want to decommission and remove it, we'll do that with the equipment and the concrete, but then we'll also be able to return the land to how we're finding it.
Councillor Atkinson.
Thank you, Warden. Going back to your comments about the safety aspect of it, you said that your responders would be there first before the St. Clair Township people arrived. Are you going to be manning this 24 hours a day with your own personnel and trained in the safety aspect as well as other maintenance issues?
Sorry, yeah. We will have our safety folks trained. So just make sure I understood the question correctly. So when we get there, we have to basically make the situations safe, and so there won't be manned personnel at that facility. We have a lot of personnel within the area. We have facilities up here near our solar facility We have our wind farm down near our Talbot wind farm, and other folks in the Sarnia area from our other facilities that will be responding, that will be trained in response. And the first thing that they will have to do is to basically isolate to make it safe so that the fire responder can go in and to respond, I should say. And as far as training goes, not only will we have our folks trained, but also the fire department, any necessary training that they need, any specialty equipment that they need will be all provided as we do in our other operations today.
Follow up.
Yes, Mr. Warden. So basically, so I understand you don't have people on site. It'll be isolated, but you have people in the area that will respond to the emergency. So it could take some time. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I should mention just for the site is remotely monitored 24/7, and there's escalations on, when we shut down, and so when we shut down, depending on what's happening, what the alarms is telling us, and then we respond. So as far as alarming and knowing and responding, we will be able to do that as soon as we detect something is wrong.
Yeah, just to clarify, so that remote monitoring center can also actually make changes at the site remotely as well. And then the one point I think might just want to be clear on is, we will be talking to the fire department about the various types of emergencies going to arise and how the various responses will work and how our remote monitoring center fits in everything. But there are design features that will be incorporated that kind of prevent fires from spreading. So I think that's what we're talking about, is we'll contain, obviously we'll plan for if those fail, but the idea would be that the fire would be contained, and that's what our crew would be inspecting before any firefighting personnel needed to go in. Obviously we'll be planning for situations where that fails, just to be safe.
Councillor Sageman.
I'm just wondering at this time, are you able to tell us what type of battery you're looking at, or is that part of your bid process and you can't divulge that right now?
It is part of the bid process that we're just not able to share right now, but that's why we're planning another public meeting so soon after in March and April, where the bids will all be in, and we want to start providing the information as soon as possible, but yeah, we're just not able to in advance of the bid date.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you again, Denise and Sumesh, and thank you for your presentation. Yes, please. So we have a motion on the floor. I'll ask Mr. Tifo to outline that motion.
Thank you. Warden Marriott. It is moved by Councillor Dennis, seconded by Councillor Broad, that County Council adopt the municipal support resolution that's located at page 60 of the materials, and authorizes staff to issue the letter of support to the ISO and Enbridge in the form set out in the materials.
Are we ready to vote? All in favor? Opposed? I think that's unanimous. Thank you. Councillor Veen. Yes, we did. So our last presenter today is Paula Reaume-Zimmer, Chair of Sarnia-Lambton Economic Partnership. We'll be introducing Dan Taylor, Chief Executive Officer of SLEP, who will be speaking to County Council, providing an update regarding SLEP's activities and plans. Matthew Slutwinski, Senior Economic Development Officer, will also be providing support and answering any questions Council may have. Welcome.
Thank you. So on behalf of the Board of Directors of Sarnia-Lambton Economic Partnership, I do want to thank the county for the support, participation, and leadership for the very important work for the Sarnia-Lambton Economic Development. And we're here today to share some exciting successes and work in progress. And I'm going to hand it over to Dan Taylor, our CEO.
Can we switch?
Sure, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, it's great to be here, and it's nice to see some familiar faces and some new ones as well. We have Matthew here as well. He's our lead economic development gentleman in terms of investment attraction, and he also is a goalie, so he's going to be a good backstop if there's any questions for me. Other than, how do I change the slide? There we go. Okay, so for those that aren't familiar with exactly who we are the county's lead economic development agency. We're arm's length. Paula is our chair, and we're governed by a board of directors. Primary funding comes from you folks here at the county. We also get numerous grants depending on projects that we work on. And also we have partnerships with business in the private sector. We do serve all 11 municipalities. And certainly we're open to discussions on projects. We've got 2 projects in the early stages right now with a couple of the municipalities. And we've had many over the years. We're also an international, globally accredited organization. One of, I think it's 5 in Canada and about 65 throughout the globe. And all that means is that we in the profession are held in high esteem and are held at a high standard of operations. A little about me, I'm new, I'm just shy of 7 months on the job. I have a 15-year private sector background, primarily working in marketing and advertising in Toronto area. And I've been in the economic development business for about 22 years, primarily in small town, rural, agricultural, tourism, as well as a small city dealing with industry, Prince Edward County, Peterborough, and I was recently in Innisfil for about 5 years. I'm quite entrepreneurial. When I was in Prince Edward County, actually what brought me there was wine and grape growing. I had a farm for 5 or 6 years. And my family's all grown up. My kids are in their 20s. I did relocate, and I live, I look across the river every day, so I live right in downtown Sarnia. And I'm enjoying the community. It's really nice to be here. I wanted to share some observations as an outsider. And what I can tell you is I honestly believe that Sarnia-Lambton is totally underrated and probably way under the radar. And I really do think it's a gem. I'm delighted to be here as a citizen and also as an economic developer. What I can tell you, sitting in my chair as CEO, there is a lot going on here. There is an incredible amount of economic activity, things coming down the pipeline, and business being serviced through our office and in the community in general. So I think it's a pretty exciting time. Paul and I were chatting, I think. So we're at this crosshairs with energy and the drive towards net zero. And it's really driving a lot of opportunity, and it's gonna evolve our economy. It's done it already. We're in the middle of it now, and there's much more to come. So I just want you folks hopefully to hang on for the ride as I am. I see a lot of new innovative things happening. I won't get into too much detail here, but in economic development, there's really only 4 things you can do. You can have a vision. I've shared the vision from our current economic strategy, which is nearing its end. It's a pretty solid one. We'll be bringing a new one to council in the latter part of the year. Then you can attract investment, you can help businesses expand, and you can retain. We're highly active in all 3 of those areas. And in fact, as I was preparing for this presentation, whatever you see and whatever you know about us is really only the tip of the iceberg. I'm still learning about going further down the tip of the iceberg and how integrated our team is working with businesses and helping them along various journeys of bringing businesses here, helping them expand, retention, et cetera. So it's quite something. I wanted to share a couple of journeys, and I only have a few minutes. So you see a headline. So what a great opportunity for us. We got Diageo. Matthew here played a tremendous role. But these things don't just happen overnight. So the opportunity came to us in 2018. We were competing with 8 communities. And we, through our work and through the assets and the strengths of the community, were able to demonstrate that we were the best community for Diageo. And that just doesn't happen easily. Those are not easy conclusions to help companies to come to. And that was part of the process was partnerships, dealing with landowners, negotiations, dealing with all levels of government, our internal government, local government in terms of zoning, et cetera. And then with all or most of our investors, aftercare, which means we don't just care about landing the deal. We want to see that companies succeed, hire people, access supplies to resources, et cetera, et cetera. This is another exciting one let's talk about net zero, the new economy. Origins, their line is they're carbon negative. So not even carbon neutral, but carbon negative, which is exciting for where the future is going. So again, our organization was introduced to them in 2012, ongoing discussions and interactions through partnerships like with BIC. And in the 2015 to 2017, the communications continued. We helped them come here by identifying different facilities. They ended up coming to the research park. And then ongoing communications since in terms of connecting them to grants, government agencies. We've now obviously heard about their announcement that the plant is about to flick the switch. And then for us, ongoing support. So all that to say is 2012, we met them. And here we are today at $130 million exciting piece of our economy. If my math is right, that's 11 years later. So these are journeys. This is just, I'm sharing this, another great investment, but a lovely quote here. Sarnia-Lambton Economic Partnership played an instrumental role in the project getting approved by OEB. So sometimes it's a support role we're playing to help things come to conclusion. We were involved at the beginning with Vanguard, foreign direct investment opportunities. So Chinese company came here a few years ago, and now they're expanding. And again, we assisted them with labor. We assisted them when they came here. A year, 2 years, 5 years, I'm sure we'll assist them again. So that's a lot of the work that we do here. On a more grassroots level, we've got a local optometry company that's expanded. We've got a brand new company, BC Foods, that we met. So we partner with other economic development agencies in Ontario. This is a food group that we're part of. I don't even believe we were at the show, but one of our partners said, here's an opportunity for a few communities. And again, through having some of the right assets, doing the follow-up, and having the right fit, we were able to land them in Watford, which is great. I'm just going to leave this with you and let you know that we have a lot of leads, which is what you want, because you don't land them all. In fact, often you only land a small percentage. And we have many quality leads. I'm going to go to the next slide. This is pretty exciting. Matthew and our team have been really great. We work with the Ministry of Economic Development, with site selectors, and we've accompanied 11 different companies looking at different sites in our community. And the articulated and our understanding of the value of those is $4.2 billion. We may not get any of them. I mean, this is part of the game, or we may get some of them. We have some excellent discussions happening right now with at least one that has a good chance. There's other factors happening that are beyond our control. Just to help you understand our economy, we look at it in clusters, or sectors might be a term you're familiar with. It's the energy and chemistry sector, sustainable hybrid chemistry, hydrogen, ag food. We could add rural, small town rural there, manufacturing, professional services, a lot of the services that support. I'm almost done here. We have quite a few programs in terms of developing the workforce. How do we help the workforce that's here? How do we bring a new workforce here? And then how do we train the workforce and connect the workforce with our companies? I think most people are familiar with our small business center. We have summer company for students, starter company for startups. We do one-on-one consultations to help companies throughout, whether they're just starting up, needing help growing, etc. And finally, as I mentioned, net zero and all the changes in a new carbon reality are going to drive major transformation of our economy. Our hydrogen hub is an incredible opportunity for us to plug into new sources of energy that are heading towards green. Diageo, Protein International, biofuels create demand for some of our agricultural inputs, so we're quite sensitive to that. And we're here to work with all 11 municipalities however we can. And we've got a brand new strat plan. We're in the process right now. Many of you may have been contacted already for one-on-ones and group consultation. We're seeking input from our mayors and our elected officials as well as our businesses for engagement to come up with perhaps a slightly crisper, more focused vision that leverages our assets, helps us diversify and respond to the changing economy. And I'll leave you with, I'm really excited to be here. I think the opportunity for Sarnia-Lambton it's quite significant. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Questions for Dan, Paula, or Matthew? Looks like they're going to let you off easy today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That brings us to item number 9, minutes of council from January special meeting, January 18th. Do we have a motion to adopt those minutes? Councillor Cook and Councillor Agar. All in favor? That's carried. And item number 10, the annual meeting, general meeting of the County of Lambton Community Development Corporation. Our agenda shows appointment of chair. Councillor Bradley, you normally chair the CLCDC?
No, I chair the CLDC, but I defer to you each year to chair
just
the
making
meeting.
sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, we need a motion for that. So you'll move that, Councillor Bradley, seconded by Councillor Broad. All in favor? It's carried. And introduction of members. So as we said, Councillor Bradley is chair of this. Rob Cardis is vice chair. Myself as a director. Deputy Warden White is a director. David Muir is a director. Tom Streifler. Miriam Capretz is a director. And Allison Ewert. So I guess we need approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion for that? Councillor Bushy and Councillor Atkinson moves. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Motion for the presentation of the financial statements. Please, Councillor Atkinson and Deputy Warden White. All in favor? It's carried. I'll turn it over to Mr. Pilarchio, please.
Through you, the Warden, the attached on the agenda is the financial statements of CLCDC. Just to reassure everyone, the financial statements as presented are presented fairly. Included in the statements are the statement of operations, the financial position, the net financial debt of the corporation, as well as the cash flows. Happy to respond to any questions that you have on the statements.
Any questions for Mr. Pilarchio? No, I guess not. So our next item on the agenda is an update from the Executive Director. Do we have a motion for that, please? Councillor Hand and Councillor Miller, all in favor. It's carried. I'd welcome Catherine Albion, please. Welcome, Catherine.
Good morning, Ward and Marriott and Council. I'm pleased to be here today to share the Research Parks update with you. This morning I'll provide you with an update and an overview of the park's increased utilization and value of our assets, our research and commercialization activities, and our plan to strengthen our position as a leading Canadian research park. The County of Lambton Community Development Corporation was incorporated by the County of Lambton in 2003, and we are affiliated with Western University through the Western Research Parks. Over the last year, we have strengthened our relationships with Western University and the London campuses of the Western Research Parks. Together, the 3 Western Research Park campuses accelerate the growth and sustainability of businesses in southwestern Ontario. The Western Research Parks have been very successful and internationally recognized based on our support of our research and commercialization tenants, our tenants' economic impact on the region, and their success rates following their graduation from the parks. Throughout the majority of 2022, our occupancy was above 80%. At the end of last year, a large corporate tenant downsized and Lambton Court Services returned to the Shared Services Center, which resulted in our current occupancy of 70%. We use the year 2012 as our reference point since we struggled at that time with the loss of a number of anchor tenants, which dropped our occupancy to 46%. Since the establishment of the park, we have relied on the lease of office suites to support our operations. However, at this time, we are driving growth through the attraction of research tenants and education-based tenants. The park's research facilities are currently more than 85% occupied, and we anticipate that our research spaces will be fully occupied in the upcoming months. Due to current economic factors and forecasted economic trends, the park is implementing a plan to repurpose underutilized suites to quicken our recovery from pandemic conditions that will significantly increase our occupancy and revenue streams. The park's commercialization center is the center of research and development at the research park. Throughout the pandemic, we welcomed a number of new tenants to our commercialization center, and we continue to see a strong demand for our technology incubation suites. We have a range of tenants conducting research in our labs, including applied research centers, university spin-offs, and startup companies. Our research labs are fully occupied with students, researchers, engineers, and technologists conducting projects for local clients, supporting our local industries, as well as advancing our emerging industrial sectors. We are also home to a number of pilot plant tenants at various stages of the commercialization process. We are currently working with 2 potential tenants for the last remaining available pilot plant space. These new commercialization projects include the return of a park graduate to develop a new product line and a collaboration between academic researchers and an international chemical company that would be new to our region. Our key academic partners continue to be Lambton College and Western Engineering. Each year, the park continues to develop new relationships with both institutions to create new student activities, enhance support for our research tenants, and advance technology development in the region. The Research Park is fortunate to have strong partnerships, both locally, nationally, and internationally, and to help advance our operations and support our tenants' needs. And we also contribute to our partners' initiatives. The park contributes to various projects related to community development, education and training, technology incubation, and emerging economic sector development. We have successfully completed the second year of our 5-year strategic plan. Our strategic plan enhances the role of the research park in the technical economic development of Sarnia-Lambton and as the world-class technology incubator in the region. We continue to strengthen our innovation ecosystem and facilitate opportunities that are resulting in significant technical, economic, social, and environmental achievements for Sarnia-Lambton. Due to the work from home environment caused by the pandemic, there is a lack of demand for office space and an abundance of office suites available for lease. This trend is not unique to our research park and is expected to continue in the long term. The research park has identified a huge opportunity to counteract these trends that would allow the park to continue to grow, thrive, and prosper by increasing our research infrastructure and capabilities through the conversion of underutilized office suites into laboratories. In addition to the demand the park has been seeing for research facilities, there is currently a demand of over 3.5 million square feet for laboratory space in the Toronto-Hamilton area alone, which is significantly larger than the current availability of lab space in the Toronto-Hamilton area. And nearly 1 million square feet of the space is for companies looking for research labs in the advanced technology sectors, which is our area of expertise. The demand for lab space is expected to continue to grow. We have a plan for the conversion of our underutilized office spaces into labs, and we have completed a business case and financial assessment, which is both positive and strong. We are working with realtors with expertise in research and laboratory real estate to target the attraction of new lab users to our research park. This office to lab conversion project would provide us with a great opportunity to increase our occupancy and revenue streams, strengthen our position as a leading Canadian research park, as well as to attract new research firms and investments to Sarnia-Lambton. The research park continues to experience promising growth. These metric results only reflect the successes of our technology-based tenants and not our corporate tenant base. We're very proud of our commercialization center tenant successes and growth at the park, which has resulted in significant job creation and the extraordinary investments their company has received to accelerate the commercialization of their technologies to the marketplace. The park and our tenants are creating local, national, and international impacts. We are succeeding to attract new technology-based tenants in emerging economic sectors, and our tenants are expanding, diversifying, and creating new opportunities in Sarnia-Lambton. 2023 is the 20th anniversary of the establishment of the Western Sarnia-Lambton Research Park. In these 20 years, we have achieved extraordinary levels of success, received international recognitions, and have become a model for other communities. Our tenants, clients, and projects have made a lasting contribution to Sarnia-Lambton, and the park has led the growth of new sector development, job creation, innovation, and wealth creation in collaboration with our strategic partners. We are fulfilling the park's mission and vision of supporting economic growth and development. Research, commercialization, and entrepreneurship are at the heart of the research park's mandate. We are driving innovation in the region, which is proven by our tenant successes and our demand for research facilities and our research resources. Our strong partnerships and initiatives continue to result in new tenants at the park and economic growth for Sarnia-Lambton. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Any questions for Catherine this morning? Councillor Bradley.
I can't give you enough praise. When is the makeup day for the tour so everyone in this chamber can see the park and see how it actually functions?
We'll be proposing a date at the end of March. We'll send out an invitation for March 24th.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Boucher.
I appreciate all the work you're doing, and I followed that right from the beginning. The fact that I work with Mayor Bradley. The thing that's going through my mind is everyone here in this room knows what Research Park is. And we all appreciate what's being done and what has been done. The thing that's going through my mind is you ask the people in Lambton County or in Sarnia, the average people that they don't know really what Research Park is. And I talked to many of them, and they don't have the whole thing in their minds. Is there a way that the Research Park and you can invent something to let the average person in both Lambton County and Sarnia know what's it all about? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Thank you, Councillor Bouchy. We are updating our marketing plan. So with the conversion of our office suites into laboratory suites, we are developing new marketing materials, rolling out a new social media plan. We've been looking to put out additional media releases to the public, as well as part of our strategic plan is part of our vision to increase the awareness of the park in Sarnia-Lambton. Especially with this being the 20th year of the establishment of the park, looking to host events to educate this community on the park, whether it's through open houses, more newsletters, regular media, social media outreach. We have identified a number of options to move forward with to help promote awareness.
Okay, sorry, Councillor Hand, please.
Thank you for the presentation. It was excellent. Just to add to that comment, something I don't think we really heard, but there's a large collaboration with Lambton College, and Lambton College, as we know, just got another award on their research. I think there's a lot of the students and a lot of the staff at the college are well aware because of that collaboration, so that helps disseminate the information about what the research park is. My original question is related to, you're making a project to convert office space into labs, so there's a cost there, but when they actually rent, it costs more to rent the lab than it would an office space, so you generate more income that way. Is that so?
Yes, that's correct, Councillor Hand. So the revenue from a laboratory suite is approximately 2 or 3 times higher than an office suite leased because it is specialized space. So we do forecast in our financial models that through the conversion of about 50,000 square feet of space, we would be doubling our current revenue stream.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you again, Catherine, and everything you do for CLCDC.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is confirmation of the officers and directors. I'd look for a motion for that, please. Councillor Broad and Councillor Ferguson, all in favor. That's carried. And appointment of auditors for 2023. The motion would be for BDO. Do we have a mover for that? Councillor Cook and Councillor Agar, all in favor? That's carried. Any other business for the AGM of CLCDC? Seeing nothing, motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Sageman and Councillor Bean, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you again, Catherine. That brings us to item number 11, correspondence to receive and file. We have 3 items. I'd look for a motion to receive and file all 3 of those. Councillor Bradley?
I would like to move that motion, but I would not like that we endorse item A, which is related to Via Rail. And the only thing I would add to that they adequately fund and fully support Via Rail Canada in increasing the frequency, reliability in southwestern Ontario.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for the Councillor Agar? Seconds the original motion and then noted for item A. Any discussion on that? All in favor? That's carried. So item 11B, correspondence from member municipalities. We'll do these individually. The first one is an email from Amanda Gubbles, CAO, Clerk, Township of Warwick, dated November the 16th, 2022. How would you like to deal with this? Councillor Broad moves, to seconder by Deputy Warden White. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Second one is an email from Roberta Brandon, Administrative Assistant to the Clerk, the Municipality of Lambton Shores, on behalf of Stephen McCulley, the CAO. Do we have a mover for this? Councillor Cook and Councillor Dennis. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. And the third one is a letter from Mandy Pearson, Clerk, Operations Clerk, Town of Petrolia, dated January the 25th, regarding a resolution that was passed by Council of the Town of Petrolia in relation to school board elections. Deputy Warden White moves, seconded by Councillor Field. Councillor Bradley.
I just have a question. I'm trying to understand. So we'd have two election processes, two returning officers. Is this not a duplication? If the issue is the cost, would you not just ask the school boards to compensate? I don't know the answer to that, so I'm asking the question.
Yeah. Councillor Field, can you answer that?
Thank you, Warden. I think it was just mainly for the compensation, that there is municipalities that were running elections for school board and they were acclaimed. In our municipality, we're running a school board alongside, so it was mainly for the financial compensation. Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Warden. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out what the motion read, that just looking for compensation as opposed to conducting their own election. I'm not sure where the motion would read if we're just looking for financial compensation on this.
Councillor Field, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, through you, Warden. I believe that if it was a municipality that wasn't having a municipal election, that they would look after their own. The compensation was the town of Petrolia's portion. If it's reading a little different than that, that's the original intent of the motion at our meeting.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Cook?
Mostly, but I guess it's almost like you're asking to have a separate election for councillors on the trustee as opposed to running at a different time than the municipal election, even though they happen at the same time. I'm just trying to get an issue with the wording so that we get the motion correct.
Okay, Deputy Warden White.
Well, as I read it, not to drill down too fine into the weeds here, it does say that school boards become responsible for conducting their own trustee elections, or at minimum, municipalities be compensated by the school boards for overseeing. I'm satisfied with the wording of that. I think you're kind of giving both options, and I'm going to assume that if it was an either-or situation, the most cost-effective way would be to simply offer some compensation. So I think it covers it off.
Okay, thank you for that. All in favor of opposed? That's carried. Councillor Han opposes. That's carried. Item number 12, information reports. Motion to receive and file Finance, Facilities, and Court Services Division. Councillor Miller and Deputy Warden White, all in favor? That's carried. And item number 13, items not requiring a motion. I guess motion to receive and file these 2 minutes. Councillor Hand and Councillor Atkinson, all in favor. That's carried. Thank you. No reports requiring a motion at this time. That brings us to item number 15, committee minutes. I'd call on Councillor Veen for the AM minutes, please.
Thank you, Warden. Members of County Council. The AM committee met on January 18th, and I present these minutes for your approval.
Okay, the first motion was under Infrastructure and Development Services Division for information reports. And the second one was under reports requiring a motion. Third is a report from the County Road Network. Number 4 was correspondence. Number 5 was information reports. Number 6 is under Cultural Services Division, information reports as well. Number 7 was reports requiring a motion for libraries. Number 8 was a report regarding museums, gallery, and archives. And under Corporate Service Division is number 9, report regarding the 2023 committee meetings be changed. And under CAO office, number 10, correspondence to receive and file. And number 11, that the county and council endorse Borden's application to the SWIFT board. And in camera was number 12, number 13, and 14 to adjourn. Councillor Bean, please.
I move the minutes of this meeting.
The seconder, Councillor Broad. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. PM committee minutes, I'd call on Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Warden Merritt. I'd like to present to the council the minutes of January 18th to be previewed. Thank you.
Okay, under long-term care division, the first motion was for information reports. And under corporate services division is number 2. Reports requiring a motion is number 3 regarding the previous of AM, the committee meetings change. And number 4 was a report on the Integrity Commissioner Extension Agreement. Number 5, the appointment of our new clerk for the county, Olivia Lesure-Nesbitt. And under number 6 is a report under services and fee schedules. Under finance, facilities, and court, number 7, information report. And number 8 was a report requiring a motion under conventions and seminars, policy update. Under social services division is number 9, information report. And CAO office is number 10, correspondence receive and file. And number 11 is also to endorse the warden's application to SWIFT. And number 12 is in camera. 13 and 14 and 15 all to do with that as well. And adjournment number 16. Councillor Ferguson, please.
I'd like to motion for these to be accepted by council.
You have a seconder. Councillor Sageman, all in favor? That's carried. Brings us to number 16, items tabled from previous meetings. The first one is tabled motion number 8. To the Board of Health, and I believe this was Councillor Bradley.
Yeah, I would move to lift it off the table and then have a couple of comments and then a question to Mr. Tebow.
Okay, do we have a second to remove from the table? Deputy Warden White, all in favor? That's carried. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, very briefly, this all evolved during COVID. We're one of the few places in the province that has this set up, and it was put in place for the right reasons back in the 90s. However, during the COVID discussions, it was obvious that it was simply county council, and I don't think, myself included, realized the seriousness that we are the Board of Health. And we've been having, it's tagged on to committee meetings. My question to you, Mr. Tebow, I think de facto, we've already decided that we will meet as a Board of Health as the full council. So this is now redundant, is that not correct?
Go ahead, please, Mr. Tebow.
Thank you. If I understand the question is if you've already decided whether the municipal council is the Board of Health for the purposes of the public health under the Health Protection Promotion Act, and the answer to that is yes. So that's a decision that was made, I think you've alluded to historically, back in the 90s, where you've agreed that your municipalities, your representatives, or the Board of Health on this pay-for-say concept.
The issue was that the half of the council that wasn't on the committee felt they weren't part of the discussion. That was correct. So if I understand correctly, if we meet as the Board of Health, we're doing it like we do right now. So it won't be just going to committee, it'll be the full group.
Mr. Tifo, please.
Currently, your procedure, the way that you've organized your procedure applies to your Board of Health governance as well. So if you wanted to lift any matters from the public, or from Lambton Public Health to go direct to council rather than through a committee system, then we would need those directions.
Intent of this motion that this would be the full group until changes come to the Public Board of Health, that we all would be part of the discussion, not just one committee, because we're all obligated with serious responsibilities being on this Board of Health. So I'm willing to move that. When we do meet as a Board of Health, we will meet as a full group.
Thank you for that. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Dennis, any more discussion? Everybody's clear? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you.
On the second part of the motion, I don't like to do this again, but before COVID, Premier Ford said he was going to dissolve all the health units and amalgamate them into, in our case, 10 of us into one. That got put on hold. I suspect that plan's coming back with their current attitude towards municipalities. So I'm going to move, and I don't like to do this to the clerk, that we table this till we get clear direction from the province. And there was a review underway, Warden Merritt, I believe, before we hit COVID by an independent party. So we just table this till we fully understand what they're going to do with health units in Ontario. That could be 2 months, it could be 2 years.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Broad. No discussion, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. The second item that was tabled is motion number 11 from Lambton County Council of July the 6th, 2022, the waste to energy pre-feasibility study. Councillor Bradley.
I would move that we receive and file these motions, and we let the waste management process, which was in that very comprehensive report we received from Mr. Cole, unfold as staged and planned.
Yeah, so we have to lift from the table first. So
do that first.
Do that, please, and seconded by Councillor Cook. All in favor of that? Thank you. It's carried. And Councillor Bradley, you're moving to receive and file.
Receive and file, and let the process that has been endorsed, is fully described, which is a fair public process, unfold the way it should.
Seconded by Councillor Broad. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried.
That's a lot easier today than I thought.
And third one is the research and technology motion number 4 from October the 5th, connected to the previous tabled motion. Do we have a motion to lift from the table?
I thought it was both together.
Or are they both lifted? Go ahead, please, Mr. Tifo.
Thank you. Unless there's objection here, what I will do, because the first report that was from former Councillor Bird with respect to the waste to energy project, it was tied into this report as well from our infrastructure development. If council allows me, we'll just address the motions that you've passed to lift, and then secondly to receive and file the issues as also applying to this piece.
I intend.
Thank you for that. So that is covered off. The final motion, tabled motion, is motion number 4 from the proposed moratorium on 2023 capital grant request. We have a motion to lift from the table. Councillor Bradley, do I have a seconder? Councillor Hand, all in favor? It's carried.
And now to receive and file.
Okay, so motion, Councillor Bradley moves to receive and file, seconded by Councillor Miller. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And number 17, notice of motion. We have Councillor Bradley gave notice of motion on October the 5th. Go ahead, Councillor Bradley.
Are we referring to the county budget? Okay, so are we skipping the capital grant motion? Okay. Thank you. This one's very simple. If I can get a seconder, I'll speak to it.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Dennis.
Thank you. I've raised this numerous times over the last 20 years that the official plans are approved by the staff and county councils not involved in them. Yet you approve them at your own local councils. And I know when I raised it last time, and it was legitimate concern, it was this: we don't want to approve all the official plans. I understand that, but you're not going to be asked to. The way this motion is crafted, if your council that I lead, decides we want the vote at county council by the political people, not the decision by staff, we would have the right to request it and it would come to county council for a vote. That's that simple. And then we would have a discussion here. And you may be aware of some of the significant issues that's going on with the city official plan where the county has denied it. And we're going to move into a very expensive process, probably $500,000 and probably 2 years before we even get a hearing to deal with it. But I think that discussion should have occurred here and should occur here. And the same thing applies. And I also think we need to take a good look in a number of communities, what I hear from your residents and my own residents, to look at these urban boundaries. That we should have the right to come here and outside of the official plan, and if you want to increase your urban boundary or change it. And I will tell you the one lesson I've learned from going back to the last official plan, there's quite a few property owners that lost their property rights without knowledge of what the county was doing. And that's probably happened in the city too. And I think we need to clean up that process. But the essence of this motion is, if any council here says we want the official plan voted on and not decided by the staff, by county council, it would come here if we requested it. Otherwise, all the official plans will go through as they normally do. So this isn't going to create a lot of work for everyone here. But I think it's a critical issue. Just think about the most important document a city or town or village approves is your official plan. Yet you're not going to make that decision. It's going to be made at this level, at the civil servant level. So that's all I'm asking, that we would have the right to, as leaders, to bring it here if we so desired.
Okay, so if this were to go forward, I'll ask Mr. Tifo the process from here.
Okay, I'll attempt to address that, and if I miss anything, I'll call on Mr. Cole to maybe supplement the information. So historically, official plans from municipalities, when amended, were brought up to the province for approval. That took many years for the province to go through them all. So the wait time for that could have been 18, 24 months. There was a downloading to the upper tiers back in the late 90s, early 2000s to carry out that work. So at that point in time, under the Planning Act, you had municipalities amending their official plans, and the official plan would then go to the county for approval. Back in 2002 or so, this council adopted a bylaw that would delegate from council to staff the review of of those official plan amendments from local municipalities. And then there was a process there. So if you wish to move forward and stipulate that rather than delegate automatically to staff, but rather if requested by the local municipality, that the official plan go to county council in its entirety as opposed to staff, then that can happen. We would just have to amend the delegation bylaw of 2002. So if you were to move forward, I would just slightly suggest a brief amendment to the motion that if you wish to go down that process, that we bring back an amended bylaw, a delegation bylaw for county council's review and approval. But that being said, so that's the history. So again, local municipalities, official plan amendments were typically sent to the province. The province downloaded that responsibility to the upper tiers. This council of county council in 2002 delegated that responsibility to staff, with a caveat that if the official plan amendment in its entirety were completely rejected, then it would come to county council. That's the current delegation. If you wish to change that to say official plans be considered at county council rather than staff at the first instance, we would have to amend that bylaw. So that's my feedback. Mr. Cole, anything else on that?
And can I add to that? I don't disagree with it at all. only if the local municipality asks. So we're not going to be inundated with a lot of official plans that are straightforward, you know, the local community supports them. I think we just need to build this in to bring back accountability to county council. So I'll move, that's the intent you're talking about, revised bylaw, that's what this motion's about.
Correct. So the motion, the way it would read was in accordance with your current wording, and in addition to that, that staff bring back to county council a bylaw amending the original delegation.
Recorded vote.
Okay, is there any further discussion? It's clear. Councillor Ferguson, and then Councillor Broad.
To be clear, it'd be the municipalities council as a whole would bring that in, not an individual working independently. And I could not ask to bring in the official plan from Don Euphemia, who's a neighbor. They can only bring their own in, as an example.
That's absolutely correct. It would have to be the council makes the request, not individuals. And it would be the local council deciding if they wanted to bring it to this forum, which I would suspect, looking at the past history, would be fairly limited.
Councillor Broad, and then Councillor Sageman and Deputy Warden White.
Thanks, Warden Merritt. I guess my question is, if we get a response back from the county where you don't like the response, do we then go and ask for it to be brought in front of county council? Or does that process have to start from day one?
Mr. Tifo, please.
Thank you. It's a very good question. And again, Mr. Cole can correct me if I'm wrong. But the amendments that you would be seeing from staff, from us, in terms of amending the delegation, it would start from day one. So once you approve at your local level an official plan amendment within your bylaw approving that, you would have to then, at that point in time, choose whether or not it's going to staff or county council. So to stop those kinds of situations from arising where 30 days later you're not hearing something that you like and all of a sudden you want to switch it.
Councillor Sageman.
So I guess I'm pretty sure I'm the only planner on this council. My concern would be that adopting this, we're then subverting the planning process to the political will. So I don't know that that's necessarily represents good planning. That would be my only concern about what we're doing here, is that we've taken a process and now it's subject to the whim of this council instead of necessarily good planning practice. Just wanted to get that on the record. Okay,
thank you for that. Deputy Warden White.
Thank you, Warden Merritt. I think the question was answered in Councillor Broad's question, but just to clarify, this becomes two separate paths if requested by the municipality. For clarification, it's either staff or council, if I understand correctly. And if so, I just have concerns. I would rather, if it came to council, it had a report from staff accompanying it, because staff work within this realm of planning and would theoretically have their own lens through which they're looking upon this. And I think it's important that the county official plan have the representation of county planners while we're deliberating. So I just want to clarify, this is an either or. It comes to council without a staff report, or it comes to council with a staff report in this case.
I believe that's correct, but I'll ask Mr. Tifo to verify.
That is correct, and again, Mr. Cole can correct me if I'm wrong, but ultimately, if it does come, if the request is to not go through the delegation, but go through directly to county council, then part of the planning process, part of the planning advice would come from staff to county council at this level.
I can use the example that is generating this. It's the new official plan for the city that's been rejected by the county. Yet, going back to our, and I'm glad you told us you were a planner, now we've got good information on you, is that's the problem. At the local level, 6 of 9 people at city council voted for this official plan. That was a political decision, and there was resistance from staff. It comes here, and then we have a staff decision. Again, I'm not being critical on the staff side, but they've been empowered to do this where I think it should be a decision here. And you may decide we're wrong at the political level, and that's your choice. But when I keep on reading all the stuff about Ford, I mean, we're right now in planning hell. we got 2 years, maybe to get to LPAT in 2 years. We have urgency for more creation of housing lots and building homes in the community. So all this does is that if Sarnia Council decided they want this decision to come here for a vote, it will come here, and then you would have the decision. You'll still get professional advice, and you'll actually have all the advice already, because the county's made it clear why they're not supporting our plan. So to me, it's just accountability. And we've had other examples of this too, where things have been approved, which, you know, the political reps in the different towns did not support it. So this just gives them the opportunity to say yay or nay, that's all.
Okay, Councillor Cook.
Thank you very much. I guess, does this bypass the appeal process right now for official plans? Like right now, we're going to LPAT or OPT, whatever they're calling it, for the tribunal to discuss. So would this vacate that and take it to a different level?
I can say just from the Sarnia point of view, we're not at that point yet. There is an appeal, which is probably going to happen for a number of parties, but we're not there because there's a whole bunch of things that happen. That's why I say planning hell, we're probably talking a year to 2 years. But, and any time you can withdraw an appeal, and again, I also, I'm guessing, that the Ford government and Mr. Bailey are probably going to step in our situation and bring down a municipal zoning order on us. I would try to work it through this system. So anyhow, that's what the motion is, and it would apply to all your communities. If you want to bring your official plan, if you're not happy with the staff direction, you would have the right to do that.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Forgive me, Councillor Case, you're the only one on Zoom and I keep forgetting to look up there. So are we ready to call the question? And Councillor Bradley requested a recorded vote. Go ahead, please.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, we have Councillor Hand, you have a...
Sorry, I'm sure you're going to do this, but would you clarify what this means? Because I've kind of got lost on whether it comes with the staff report or not.
Mr. Tifo can answer that first. Or, sorry, Mr. Cole.
Yeah, I think any kind of a process that's brought in front of council should come with those professional recommendations. It would, and I believe this is what you were saying, Councillor Bradley, is through this process, there is a timeline that we have to meet in order to make our approvals. Before it's brought to county council, or at the time it's brought to county council, there would be a staff report that would be prepared outlining the recommendations and the concerns or support of those individual sections of the official plans that are brought forward. Is that fair, Councillor Bradley?
Is that clear, Councillor Han?
Yes, thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. And Mr. Tifo, if you could do the random vote process.
Thank you. It is moved by Councillor Bradley, seconded by Councillor Dennis, that if requested by the local municipality seeking an amendment to its official plan, that the municipality's proposed official plan amendment be brought forward to council for consideration and decision, and that staff bring forth to council a draft bylaw amending the original bylaw delegating that authority to that function to staff. Recorded vote was requested by Councillor Bradley, and we will start with Councillor Agar. If you vote yes, that's you're in support of the motion. If you vote no, of course, you're against. So Councillor Agar, please. No. I have a no. Councillor Atkinson. No. Councillor Atkinson, I have a no. Councillor Boucher. Yes. Councillor Boucher, I have a yes. Councillor Bradley. Yes. Councillor Bradley, I have a yes. Councillor Broad. Yes. Councillor Broad, I have a yes. Councillor Case.
Yes.
Councillor Case, I have a yes. Councillor Cook. Councillor Cook, I have a no. Councillor Dennis. Yes. Councillor Dennis, I have a yes. Councillor Ferguson. Yes. Councillor Ferguson, I have a yes. Councillor Hand. Yes. Councillor Hand, I have a yes. Councillor Field. No. Councillor Field, I have a no. Councillor McRoberts. Yes. Councillor McRoberts, I have a yes. Councillor Miller. No. Councillor Miller, I have a no. Councillor Sageman. No. Councillor Sageman, I have a no. Councillor Veen. No. Councillor Veen, I have a no. Councillor White. Yes. Councillor White, I have a yes. Ward of Marriott?
No.
Ward of Marriott, I have a no. Give me a moment to count these. The motion carries 20-17.
Okay, that takes us to notice of motion B by Councillor Agar, dated January the 12th, 2023. Councillor Agar, please. You can make the motion if you like.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept, and I'll talk after.
Sure. Do I have a seconder? Sorry, who was that here? Is that Councillor Field? Okay, go ahead, please, Councillor Agar.
Okay, I know. You don't have to cheer me before I get going.
I have a closet.
No, I lost track. That's okay. I know there was talk about a roundabout a year or 2 years ago. I haven't heard anything more about it, and I know if it goes and gets approved, it's going to be 5 to 10 years until that's done. Meanwhile, I'm talking to people that are involved in. That's right. Involved in serious accidents out there. There's been fatalities. I just talked to a mother a couple weeks ago whose daughter was very lucky to walk away. I think it's time we have to do something, and it's going to take a light to do it, and that's why I'm proposing this. The roundabout is a good thing too, but like I say, if it's going to be 10 years until we get it, how many more people are going to pass away on that corner? And that's what my motion's all about.
Okay, questions and comments? Councillor Veen and then Deputy Warden White.
Thank you, Warden, members of County Council. I would have to agree with that, and I think I'd sooner see the lights than I would the roundabout myself. We're slowing down at that intersection now. You know, we're down to 70, and being through that intersection as much as I am, I think it's important that we do something, and I would agree with Councillor Agar.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Warden White.
Thank you. I appreciate the concern. I really do, and I think something is better than nothing. And oftentimes, I see councils make that decision that let's go with something so it can be quicker, and in the long term, it may not be the most effective, life-saving decision that we can make. So I just think it would be prudent if we have a comment from the engineer in regards to this. I'd certainly be happy to support it, perhaps even as an interim step, but if the engineer could comment, please.
Okay, Mr. Cole, please.
Thank you. Yes, and we are aware of the collisions that have happened at that intersection. Back in 2021, we did do a review of the intersection, and at the time, it did not meet the provincial warrants for a signal at that time. The changes to that intersection have not been, or the intersection itself has not been looked at again since it was originally brought to council. But the changes that have happened out there would likely reflect the same conditions. We do have a refer to budget item in our budget package for the roundabout that has been standing in our budget since 2021. It was returned in 2022. It's returned again in 2023. And I realize you're not privy to that information, but that was the motion that was carried last year, so we'll be respecting that. As part of that motion, there's a report that summarizes the review that we originally brought forward to council. It was done by an independent consultant, and I mean, you could have the ability to make the decision that time and alter that as a refer to budget item, or direct us accordingly otherwise. Is there more to that question than Councillor White?
Yes. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're suggesting that we wait until the budget meeting to have this discussion and make the final decision. Can we have a comment, at least at this point, as to whether or not that report is going to suggest that a roundabout or a signaled intersection would be most appropriate as well? Thanks.
Yes, I understand. So, since that intersection does not meet the provincial warrants, it will not be recommending a signal at that intersection from a technical perspective. Where we have had a strong desire by council to see safety improvements at other intersections that did not meet rural intersection signalization, we have proceeded with roundabout options, and those options have been pursued at the time that we were out to do reconstruction of those intersections. So they're accompanied with other major work to help mitigate the financial costs and process of installing such functions at those locations. We're going to shut the road down anyway. We'll make the improvements at that time. This intersection does not currently fall within our 5-year capital plan. It falls outside of that, but not far outside of that. We will be out at this intersection shortly outside of our 5-year capital plan, and would be bringing back recommendations at that time. Based on the work that we've already done out there, we have not brought back a recommendation to install signals or a roundabout directly, except as requested by council to install it.
Councillor Bradley.
Yeah, without having the benefit of the report, can you give us the high level? Cost of lights, cost of the roundabout. And I think that is critical information.
Jason, Mr. Cole, please.
Sure, and I want to be very careful, because when we do this, we get framed all the time for saying, oh no, now the cost of this intersection has gone up twice or 3 times, and it's 5 years later, and it's there's different modifications that aren't identified at this time. This intersection, if we proceeded with signals at this intersection, it would not be as simple as simply sticking in posts and popping on lights at this intersection. We would need to do other modifications. At the very least, I suspect, and we would need to confirm this through a design process, we would need to install left turn lanes. So there would be platform widening and auxiliary lane modifications required. Our best estimate for a signalization installation with major improvements would be somewhere in the order of $500,000 for that type of work, possibly more. We saw a roundabout installation last year at Nauvoo Road and Egremont Road, and it came out just over $3 million, and at the time we had recommended that we did not think that was good value for our money and wanted to retender it. But regardless, we went ahead with it. So that's a high end of a roundabout construction that our council is familiar with. We saw a recent tender for a roundabout in another county that came in closer to what we had thought ours should have come in at, which was about $1.5 million, if the market reflects that. The disadvantage that we have at this intersection is that we do not have the property that we have at the other 2 roundabout locations that we are talking about on London Line and Egremont Road, because we have special auxiliary lanes and widened platform. So if I was going to talk about a roundabout option, if council was going to consider about a $2 million option, but it is very dependent on the construction environment and unknowns such as property requirements, utility relocations, municipal drain, move-offs, and especially at this location, accommodating the oversized load corridor. We do not have a design that can come back and accommodate that right now, and I really don't have a way of monetizing that factor into this design concept.
Councillor Agar.
So I realize that too. You have to acquire the land for the roundabout, plus all the other factors into it. So if it doesn't get a go-ahead for 5 to 6 years, after that, you might be talking another 4 years to acquire all that. So we're talking 10 years basically, pretty close. So I'm just kind of going through my head, how many more accidents are we gonna have? And if one little red light can save one, it means the world to me. So I think it should to everybody.
Mr. Cole, do you have any comments?
I mean, frankly, I think that timeline is if you were, from being directed to do something out there to completion, another 5 years is not, I think that's an extended timeline. But there certainly would be time needed to complete the design, to acquire property, to manage the utilities, and typically we have done something like that in a 2-year process.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Dennis.
Thank you. If I'm not mistaken, I believe there was a tragic accident a couple of years ago. Someone lost their life. And I know this topic has come up before in this council chambers. And I know some rural politicians had questioned whether or not farm vehicles can navigate properly around roundabouts, combines and such. I at one time lived in Carna for a period of time. I was selling quite a lot of new homes, helping grow the lovely riverside community of Carna. I ventured along that intersection a number of times. I witnessed tragic accidents. I saw a lot of near misses, and I came close. There were some close calls myself too as well. I'm definitely going to support this. And again, 5 years, 10 years down the road, that's unacceptable. It really is. Like we're talking people's lives here, and that to me, that's just not common sense. It really isn't. So I'm going to be supporting that. Thank you.
Councillor Veen, and then Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Warden. Is there any benefit to reducing the speed limit even more down to 50? Is that something that would work, or is that something we can do, or what?
Councillor Veen, through you, Warden. We have been a strong advocate at the county for not setting artificial speed limits. There are other issues that are created when you set speed limits too low. It creates differential speeds between the drivers who are in compliance and the drivers who are not in compliance. It is clear from the operation of that intersection now that there is non-compliant issues regarding the speed. I would also tell you that if there was a clear indicator of the types of collisions that were happening, that signals were the clear and obvious option to eliminate that we would be communicating that. The variety of collisions that we've had at that intersection do not indicate that a signal is going to be a 100% solution from the non-compliant issues that we've seen at that intersection. What the roundabout option does provide when we implement these at our intersections is it provides a higher level of control to driver behavior, forces people to slow down. Signals don't do that when they're in the green phase. It forces them to only pay attention to one direction of the traffic. Signals don't do that. You're concerned about multiple directions. And then if there is a collision at the roundabout, they are typically side swipes and lower impact collisions because of the speeds, because of the angles of entry points of the vehicles. So I rambled and I went on a little bit of a roundabout rant, but I think that concludes that question.
Councillor Ferguson.
I think we all want to see safety in there, but I'm looking at the timelines and dollars. You have to purchase land almost one way or the other. If you put in stoplights, you still got to go through and change the intersection and do repaving and move things out. And you're going to come back after the 5-year timeline to look at a roundabout. Why not put through a motion today or to take a look at not looking at stoplights, but getting the plan in place this summer to purchase land, etc. Move a roundabout into 2024, because that's what you really want. Not a stopgap, but you're going to lose your $500,000, and you got to go back in and reconstruct the intersection at that time with a roundabout 5 or 6 years down the road. It's a reconstruction. You're doing it twice with this one. Or do you say, let's get the plan in place, get land purchased this summer, look at 2024 for budget? That's my thoughts, thank you.
Councillor Bradley?
Clarification, you're bringing a report which will give us all the background in a few weeks for budget?
Mr. Cole, please.
Through you, Warden. The report that will be received is the same report that was attached previously. It assesses the warrant for the signals, a four-way stop, and brings forward a preliminary design for a roundabout with some costs associated at that time. So that was the recommendation that was presented in 2021. That recommendation remains the same. We don't have, if you're asking for something with a full design, we don't have that information at this time. We haven't been directed to go and obtain that information at this time.
I guess what Mr. Warden, I'm saying is we would be in a position though, when we get to budget, to give you the direction you need. I would think in general terms from what we've heard today and what will be in your report.
Mr. Cole, please.
I believe so, Councillor Bradley. I think given what you've heard today, the information that's presented in that report, and it's in last year's, if anybody wants to go look at it early, or you can contact me, I can forward it out. I mean, of course, the other option is given the timelines that would be associated with proceeding with, even with an intersection design with signalization, we could be directed to proceed with the design and come back with a full cost and design option to council of a signalized intersection. That's a third option that hasn't been presented at this time.
Add one thing to your comments about traffic lights. Deal with it constantly that everyone thinks they're the solution. And if I give you the 25 accidents to top corners and intersections in Sarnia, they all have lights. And I think that, I mean, I understand the immediate direction, but if we're going to fix this, fix it. And if we can do it in 2 years, let's fix it permanently with the roundabout.
Any further comments? Councillor Agar.
100%, I'd be willing. I just want to see progress. We got to do something. Like, this is crazy.
Would you table your motion to the budget?
I would do that.
I'll second.
Okay.
Suggesting the motion be tabled to the budget and make a decision then.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Agar to table, seconded by Councillor Bradley. Do we have no discussion? All in favor of that? Opposed? That's carried. That brings us to item number 18, other business. We don't have anything on the agenda unless council has something. Seeing none, we'll move to 19, notice of bylaws. Please, Mr. Tifo.
Thank you, Warden Marriott. It is moved by Councillor Sageman, seconded by Councillor Atkinson, that bylaws 4 to 8 of 2023, inclusively as circulated, be taken as read a first and second time.
All in favor? Opposed? That's carried.
It is moved by Councillor Atkinson, seconded by Councillor Sageman, that bylaws 4 to 8 of 2023 as circulated be taken as read a third and final time.
All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And that brings us to item number 22, adjournment. Motion to adjourn, and next meeting will be March the 1st at 9 a.m. to deal with budget deliberations. Councillor Broad moves, seconded by Councillor Sageman. All in favor? That's carried. Please join me in O Canada.
From America, we stand on